essential oils are the jam.
Aromatherapy, what is aromatherapy? A simple definition would be the therapeutic use of plant-derived essential oils.
When I learned like the difference between synthetic fragrance and essential oil, like my mind was blown. Wow.
You're listening to an essential oil, right? It's like when you're smelling, there's like your brain is listening to it. But if you grew up on synthetics, you need a mentor like yourself, like someone to teach, like, oh, well, just really smell this and then smell the synthetic. It's like we have to train our noses. There's no way to just tell somebody. It has to be experienced.
Welcome to the Urban Eden Podcast. I am your host, Terran Lewis, and today we are going to be talking to Jade Shutes about essential oils and aromatherapy, a topic that I absolutely love. Jade Shutes is the founder and director of education for the School for Aromatic Studies. She has a passion for aromatic plants and essential oils, but empowering aromatherapy education. Jade is also a best-selling author of several books and articles around aromatherapy and wellness. She is a self-proclaimed strong advocate for the use of aromatherapy in herbal medicine for self-care, healthcare, and believes that education is key for self-empowerment.
So how you doing today, Jay? You doing all right?
I am doing well. Yes, it's a beautiful day. It's distillation season, so
Oh my gosh, I actually have a distiller too, and I need to get back into it since I've had a baby. I think I got it like while I was pregnant with her, and I distilled like some lavender, and I still have like a little bit of my lavender hydrosol, but yes, I love it. That's why I'm so excited to talk to you because I love like distilling essential oils. I love hydrosols, all of that good stuff, and I could talk about like essential oils for days, but definitely talking to an expert just makes it 10 times better. I know that you could talk about it. If I could do it for days, you could talk about it for years.
Absolutely. And never get bored.
Right. I bet. I mean, because it's extensive. I was even wondering, I'm like, okay, with this podcast, I hope that we have enough time to talk about it in one episode, because I was like, you can literally like probably have a whole podcast season on essential oils and the breakdown of them and the benefits. And there's so many. I mean, it's endless.
It is. Absolutely.
I love your background. I see you got the herbs going on in the back. So if you don't mind, just going ahead, we're gonna just jump on right in, and I just want to know, like, where are you first and foremost? Are you in your herb room?
Yep, I'm actually in my kitchen, which I had built out a couple of years ago, where I make product and mostly make product in here. So, and then eventually I hope to have this as my classroom space. So I have a farm in Virginia. It's in Stewart, Virginia. And
what side is that? East, west, north, south?
It's like, so I guess it would be west, southwest.
Okay.
Yeah, it's away from the coast. We're not far from the Blue Ridge Mountains. So yeah.
My husband is from Virginia.
Oh yeah, I love Virginia. It's a great, it's beautiful. And I have a 70-acre farm, and then it has pasture and forest. And then I have quite a large garden where I grow aromatic and medicinal plants. So either to distill or tincture or infuse in oil. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. So pretty much your goals, pretty much.
I've worked, I'm 35 years into my career. I worked for this. This is where I will hope to retire and just enjoy gardening and having people come to the farm and experience the aromatic plants. And, because I feel like that really deepens our relationship with the essential oils, is to smell the aromatic plant itself and then the essential oil. And I don't know, it just helps. Yeah.
No, you're on point. It's definitely that connection with the plant, and then the essence of the plant is what I like to call essential oils.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so can you tell us about your history and your background, just to jump off, and let us know how you got into essential oils and your love for herbs and aromas?
Yeah. So, well, my love of plants probably I got from my mom because I grew up gardening with her and she always loved to plant just as much food as like flowering plants. So, I probably got a love of gardening from my mom. But it was when I was in college. That I went on an exchange program. Actually, after I graduated from college, I got a BA in business and I was working in an accounting office. And I just thought, oh my God, there must be more to life than an accounting office. So I went on an exchange program, and this is like 1989. And I chose England because my great grandfather was British. So I went to England. And then just to kind of make a long story short, I ended up marrying my first husband, and I moved to England full time. And he was a musician, so he went to LA and I was in England. But I developed health problems, mostly like structural, like a lot of back pain. And I was just could barely walk. And someone referred me to an aromatherapist, and I was like, "Ooh, aromatherapist, that sounds interesting." So I went, and the aromatherapy was British based. So the British model of what's called holistic aromatherapy includes massage and reflexology, and they do a consultation and customize a blend for you to apply through massage. And all I remember is like, I loved the massage. I think it was probably my first massage actually as well. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And of course, the aromas. And I ended up falling asleep. It was beautiful. I mean, where we were, it was out at a friend's farm. It was like upstairs in this beautiful cabin, the loft, it was a sunny day in England. Um, and I fell asleep, and I must have been dreaming, because when I woke up, Sophie, the practitioner, had left the room, and I like just opened my eyes and I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, you know? So that was like the just the experience that, yeah, changed my life forever. Like, you know, because I was looking for something other than accounting. Um, so yeah, so that was what got me exposed to aromatherapy. And I knew then I was going to go to school. And England was like in a, you know, a bit of a recession. So as being married to a Brit, I was immediately eligible for like financial assistance and to be able to go to aromatherapy school. Um, so I got all of that. I enrolled within probably 3 months of that first massage. I was enrolled at the Raworth Institute of Natural Medicine, which is just south of London. It's closed now. And the training was massage, reflexology, anatomy, physiology, nutrition, some basic counseling, essential oils, basic chemistry. I mean, where we are today is so different from 34 years ago, but I'm glad I learned the way I learned, because the training really had us work with the essential oils and see their benefits rather than just kind of what's extensive information today. So, and without such chemistry, you know, there wasn't such a huge emphasis on chemistry. So yeah, so studied, I think it was like a 9-month program full time. And then they had clinic at the end where we saw clients and did consultations and customized our blends, and then did massage. So yeah, I learned a lot there. However, like I said, England was in a bit of a recession. It was very difficult to earn a living there. So I decided to come back to the US thinking, okay, it's going to be amazing. Like, I'm going to have my practice. And so I came back in 1991.
I was born there.
All right. Oh my God. So there you go. And what I found is no one knew what aromatherapy was. I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no aromatherapy here. I mean, there was maybe an emerging woman in Massachusetts with an essential oil company. Kirchner was in California, and some women from
I was
England
gonna
were
say
in
California probably most
yeah,
of it, yeah.
yeah, California and Colorado, of course. So suddenly I was like, how am I going to build my practice? And what I found was I began talking about what aromatherapy is. I began writing articles. And it was that those days, like adult continuing education was popular. And massage schools and aesthetic schools. And I just started writing them, asking them if they'd be interested in offering a class. So I almost feel like it was my dharma in this lifetime to have that experience when I was in England and then teach, do you know, like, and I was I'm still an introvert. But aromatherapy like really gave me something to talk about and write about, you know, because I've always been a writer as well. So I just started teaching, and now 30 years later, I've taught all over the world, from Japan to England and Canada and the US.
And you have
Um,
school, right?
and I have a school. Yep. So yeah, and I had a space where a school, a physical school when I lived in Seattle. And that school was there for about 10 years, maybe 12. And then slowly it went online. I also had my son when I was 40. So I took some time to be with him, and I wrote my first book, Aromatherapy for Body Workers. And I've been involved in all aspects, from research to I was involved with National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy and helped set educational standards. Been outspoken, about education and really thinking it's worth people investing in to really appreciate aromatherapy. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
agree. I agree. You know, I don't know if you know, but I have a skincare company, and in our soaps and our body care products, we only use essential oils because of their aromatherapy benefits and because of the
Nice.
physical benefits and the mental benefits. And so that's why I definitely want to dive
Absolutely.
deep because, like you said, when you came back to Massachusetts, like aromatherapy wasn't really being talked about, and you
Mm.
know, some brands like Young Living have kind of made it more like popular now, and
Yeah.
people are a little bit more aware of aromatherapy, but I still think that there's so much education that needs to be done around essential oils and
Yeah.
aromatherapy as far as like to the public and to consumers. So that, because you know, even for me growing up, like I just grew up using like regular body care products that just had like synthetic fragrance. And so when I learned like the difference between synthetic fragrance and essential oil, like my mind was blown.
Ah.
Wow, essential oils are the jam. So if you
Yeah.
don't mind, can you, I'm pretty sure you don't mind because like you said, you educate. Can you tell us what are essential oils for one, and then also what is aromatherapy?
Yeah. So, well, essential oils that, you know, it's actually a technical definition because it's what the world uses to define essential oils. And it's basically the end aromatic product of distillation, which is basically putting plant material into a still, and steam or water and steam are run through the plant material, and it goes through a condenser, and from that condenser we get the hydrosol, which is the water part, and then the essential oil. And typically the essential oil sits on the top, or in the case of like clove, which is denser than water, it will be on the bottom of the distillate. So an essential oil is a naturally a plant, you know, produced from aromatic plants through the process of distillation. You know, and it's important, I think, to acknowledge that the difference between an essential oil and a fragrance oil, hopefully, anyways, the essential oil is plant derived, right? Like a fragrance oil, I would say, is lab derived. So that would be the one of the distinctions between the two. And then aromatherapy I still ask myself these days, what is aromatherapy now? Because it's changed. As you mentioned, Young Living and doTERRA, they have really, expanded the awareness of aromatherapy in a huge way. And I'm grateful to both of the companies for doing that. Um, so aromatherapy, what is aromatherapy? A simple definition would be the therapeutic use of plant-derived essential oils to support and heal the body, mind, and we could say spirit or psyche, the energetic body. But yeah, and it's the difference is the therapeutic aspect, and it can be anything from helping a wound to heal to where we are now, which is a huge emphasis on its abilities to support emotional or mental health, right? Like that's really, for years, aromatherapy focused on the physical aspect and like healing digestive issues or circulatory. And where it's heading right now is really its ability, and its science is thoroughly supporting this, um, reducing anxiety, reducing stress, help to alleviate depression, hopefully with counseling and therapy as well if needed. But um, the emotional aspects of essential oils are really being highlighted today in 2024, and really since the pandemic, because it drove research into the olfactory part of our therapy, which I've seen in my lifetime. Years ago when I lived in Seattle, the Nobel Prize for Medicine went to olfactory research by this two people, Axel and Buck, who discovered that the sense of smell, it used to be thought that like lavender was circular and it went into a circular receptor. But what Axel and Buck discovered was that yeah, it's actually circle and square and triangle, so it attaches itself to multiple receptors. It's like usually 2 or 3 receptors responsible for our perception of a certain smell.
Is this
Yeah.
so when you say circle, square, triangle, is this like the like the chemical makeup of it?
I
That's
guess, yeah, and in a kind of general, yeah, it would be in a general kind of understanding. Yeah. So, but it's just interesting after the pandemic that there's all this stuff about the sense of smell and how it affects our emotional well-being and how important our sense of smell is. And most of that was driven because people who had COVID in the early days, the early variants, would often lose their sense of smell. Yeah.
so my
Yeah.
question to you is based off of because essential oils can help with like emotional and mental health and wellness, how does that work per se? Like how are you able to just like smell these essential oils and it can alleviate depression and also too like how would that be different than like smelling lavender that might be like made in the lab?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so what I don't want to simplify when people are depressed that just smelling an essential oil, it's like, oh, I'm not depressed anymore. Because we're depressed or anxious often for particular reasons in our life. But what they're finding, our sense of smell, when we smell something, it goes into an area of the brain called the limbic system. And the limbic system is also referred to as the emotional brain, that which gives rise to a different emotions. So what's interesting, the research, we might sometimes think, oh, tangerine's been shown to have an antidepressant effect. But one of the other kind of important things to be aware of is, that the person needs to find tangerine to be an enjoyable aroma,
Right.
right? If the person like smells tangerine or mandarin is like, oh, that's awful, I don't like it, then that is going to overcome any chemical potential of the oil, because our emotions are what, it's like you smell an oil, it's like, oh, I love that oil, just, oh my God, it makes me feel so good. So just in that moment of smelling, you feel uplifted,
Right.
right? So it could be really, it could be any oil that the person finds, wow, this is a beautiful vetiver. Oh my God, I feel so comforted by vetiver. And how is that different? And so anyhow, so it's the impact on the limbic system, and particularly one part of the limbic system called the amygdala. So the amygdala is one synapse away. When we smell something, it goes into the amygdala. And if we have a positive, wow, I like that, then it has all these bidirectional. Maybe it makes our stomach ache go away because it was caused by stress, and it just helps us relax. It increases parasympathetic, right? Our rest and digest response. And then you've asked, like, what if someone loves synthetic rose? So there's no science to support that a synthetic could have a detrimental effect on our health, but we would assume that that's a possibility, right? Like, I know my son, who I'm currently attempting to convince, because he grew up with essential oils, he buys these little things for his car. Do you know, like these things that, yeah, like strawberry or whatever he likes. And I'm like, that is not natural. He says, well, it says essential oil on it. I said, well, it's not an essential oil. It's not, maybe it has a couple of drops, but the rest is a fragrance. I say, kind of like for us who are used to smelling plant-derived aromatics, synthetics give me a headache. They make me feel a little nauseous. I can just get kind of like, I don't want to be in the room where they're being used. So, but I feel like this is the greatest challenge with aromatherapy, and why education is like a constant need, is because we're combating always when someone goes into the grocery store or Walmart's or Target and all those fragrance products. And some people, they're like, this is great. I love this. Like this, I love the way it smells. And I'm like, oh, it's awful. It's not natural. So part of the education is helping people develop the sense, if they're willing, I mean, not everyone would be willing, but if they're willing to go slowly to get to know like a handful of essential oils, like, what is it? Oh yeah. Oh, I see the difference, oh, yeah, to be willing to smell what the difference between a natural and a synthetic. But it takes a willingness to, or even a desire to want to do that. Like, people might smell your product and be like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Like, it's different from blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yeah, because it's using plant-derived essential oils. Oh my gosh, yeah. That's another way of kind of making that relationship with people, right? Like, this is a product that I've made that has plant-derived essential oils in it, and it's different from whatever product they had been using that was synthetic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through some of my research, I can come to find out, like, a lot of these products will say like fragrance or perfume on them, but so many ingredients can be listed within that one word. So it's not really a transparent word and saying like fragrance or perfume. And then, like you said, it can be ingredients that can like cause you to have a headache, or even how like Bath and Body Works is out in the, they've been creating these candles that end up being like endocrine disruptors, and that like infertility. So it's like you said, smell is, I think sometimes we just think of smell as like, take it for face value. Like, you're just smelling something and you don't always know like the actual effect that it might have on your body, how it can affect your hormones, how it can affect different systems within your body. And just like one that keeps coming up for me, even when you said that, was like, I remember one of the last times, and I haven't been into Bath and Body Works since then, but one of the last times I went a couple of years ago, I walked out with a headache because I was like smelling things. And even though they say like they have things that have essential oils, but it was just like smelling all of those like synthetic fragrances. And I had a headache right here. Like, it started in this area.
Yeah.
So so you said a mouthful pretty much when you were like the difference between like those synthetic fragrances and essential oils, and then they have those therapeutic benefits that can help. So like you even have some essential oils like you mentioned, like lavender and like a chamomile or frankincense that can help, or like peppermint that can help alleviate headaches at the same time versus like giving you a headache.
You're right, exactly.
The
Exactly.
world goes so deep. So one of my questions too is like, what are some essential oils that you even recommend to help with stress and anxiety if somebody's dealing with that daily? Like, what are some essential oils that have been proven to help with stress and anxiety?
Yeah. Yeah. So any of the citrus oils, which are all quite more affordable, right? So the citrus oils, a lot of studies around whether it's sweet orange or mandarin, helping to relieve anxiety. So, which a lot of people suffer from a lot of anxiety these days or for years now. So the citrus oil, sweet orange, mandarin, there's a Japanese citrus called yutsu, which is pretty amazing. Bitter orange, lime, even, and then things like lavender, neroli, of course, which is very expensive. But if it's an extreme anxiety, someone might want to have some neroli around. I travel. That's what the one oil I always make sure I travel with because I have a lot of travel anxiety. So neroli, and also neroli can be useful for depression. And when we say the essential oils help with depression, it's more like it just takes the edge off, maybe gives like what I call a light at the end of the tunnel as we're walking through whatever it is we're depressed or sad about. But neroli is really amazing. Petit grain, which is kind of the poor man's neroli, so to speak, but equally valuable in relieving stress, but also helping, just lift up the emotions. Trying to think, frankincense, of course, beautiful. Uh, that doesn't have so much research for anxiety, but we know as aromatherapists that frankincense can be very helpful. Um, Now I'm trying to think of all the oils, coriander seed. I mean, what comes to your mind when you think about?
That's interesting. So what comes to my mind, of course, is lavender. Like you said, that's
Yeah.
one. And I actually just created, I've just created like some essential oil roll-ons, and I did a blend with lavender, chamomile, and frankincense, for just to help with sleep, but to also help with like headaches or to deal with anxiety. And it's interesting that you mentioned neroli too, because I actually created last month. We started coming out with like limited edition products, and I did a blend with grapefruit and neroli, and it reminded me when you said neroli, just even helping with anxiety. I'm like, that's amazing because like neroli smells extremely good. And then
Yeah.
combined with grapefruit, and that's why you said scent is important because it actually helps you with like memory. When you said
Yeah.
grapefruit or any of the citruses, I can vividly remember the first time I ever took a shower with my grapefruit soap, and I was all happy. I'm like, why? I felt like I was on cloud nine. And I Googled the benefits of grapefruit essential oil, and they said it literally uplifts the mood. And I'm like, wow,
Yes.
like I felt that. I felt happy. Like, why am I so happy
Yes.
today?
Yes, yes, totally. I've been actually diffusing a lot of citrus lately. I've noticed I've been writing a lot about because in the summer it's really hot right now here. So I don't do well with the heat. So, but I have been finding diffusing the citrus oils into the air. Grapefruit, yeah, I forgot to mention, and even there's the name grapefruit, citrus paradisi. It's like paradise. It's like, oh, I'm happy to, I feel good. But yeah, the citrus oils just like, yeah, uplift the mood, slightly energizing. You could combine it with something like rosemary if you were feeling kind of sluggish and down and lethargic, rosemary, peppermint, um, even eucalyptus, juniper berry. So yeah, I'm trying. And then rose, for depression, rose is more like that heart-centered essential oil. It's good for like grief. Just it feels, or like where your self-image is hurting a little bit. It just feels when you smell rose, like self-compassion is
Mm,
what I would say about rose.
wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, the first time I ever smelled rose, real rose. Let's talk about real rose.
Yeah, real rose.
First time I ever smelt rose, I was taken aback. Like you said, the first thing that you experience is love. Like it just, you fall in love with the scent for one. And like you said, it opens up like love for others, love for yourself, and it really opens up that heart chakra.
Yeah.
And rose is extremely expensive. Like I was
Very.
extremely expensive. So I was smelling like this small bottle and I'm like, oh, I want some. And they were looking at me, they were like, you know that this stuff is expensive, right? But
Yeah.
somebody actually gave me a small bottle of rose as a gift. And I was like, wow, like I have to incorporate this into some of our products. And I even try to tell, because the soap that we came out with has rose, and so our soaps on the regular cost about like $7 or $8. The soap that we put the rose in, we charge $28. And people are like, why are you charging this? And we was like, yeah, rose is like expensive. And
Exactly.
it feels like I was telling somebody else, essential oils to me are like fine jewelry. You know, you have like costume jewelry that you can just pay like a more affordable price for, or you can have super fine jewelry that you're going to pay a more expensive price for, and that it's actually worth it because of the process, the method that it took to actually get that essential oil. You know, a lot of us, for the most part, like even me making soap, people see the soap bar. They don't see the process that goes into making that soap bar, making those products. And the same thing goes with essential oils. People see an essential oil, but you don't see the process that goes into like making that essential oil and all of the ingredients that it actually takes to make that.
It's true. It's true. And all the love, like from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why are some, can you go into, I still want to go back to like stress and anxiety again, but why are some essential oils like more expensive than others? Why is that?
Yeah. So what dictates the price of an oil? Well, it depends on, how much it's being cultivated, but it's how much plant material it takes to produce a certain amount of essential oil. So with rose, it takes like this room full of plant material to make a small amount. Whereas peppermint, it could be an eighth of this room to make a kilo. Right. So it's really, the price varies with different essential oils based upon the quantity of the plant needed to produce a certain amount. And another way of saying that is that each plant has a certain amount of essential oil in it, right? So Melissa or lemon balm is incredibly expensive. And if you grow the plant, you can smell it and you feel like you can smell it, but it also disappears very quickly. It's like, so that means we need a lot of plant material to produce Melissa essential oil. And rose the same. I mean, rose, there's like something not effervescent, but it kind of escapes your nose very quickly. So again, a lot of plant material because the volatile components really, because the essential oil, it's only called an essential oil once it's distilled. In the plant itself, it's just a mixture of volatile components: citronellol, linalool, linaloyl acetate, carvacol, so, but when we distill it, all those components come together to form the essential oil. Yeah. Yeah. So the amount of plant material, which is based on how much essential oil or volatile components is within the plant material. It's what dictates price. And then we have right now, like Europe went through a really big drought last summer. So a lot, we're seeing some of the prices go up even higher. Like, lavender has become, it's a lot more expensive than when I entered the field. You used to be able to get a kilo for $100. Now it could be a kilo for $500, and then different countries, it's become more expensive to distill. Like Australian eucalyptus is very expensive because of whatever laws or taxation or land value versus South African Eucalyptus globulus. So it's just country of origin can make it more expensive as well. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. That's why I say I'm like, you can go super deep with essential oil
It's true.
process. Like, and then no one essential oil is the same, even within, like we were talking about lavender, or even talking about real rose. There's many different types of lavender. Like you said, would you say, did you mention Australian lavender, I believe?
There is an Australian lavender, but in many countries, yeah, like a Bulgarian lavender, a Croatian lavender, a French lavender, even a US lavender, all will smell different. And so country of origin can affect, because the plant is responding to its environment, right? So it's going to have a slightly different aroma because of it, where it is grown. But then we also have different species. We have Lavandula angustifolia, which is the lavender we most often use. We have latifolia, we have spica, and then we have a whole bunch of lavandin cultivars. And lavandin is a hybrid between the angustifolia and the spica. So, and that changes its chemical composition, because lavandins are more like camphor rich. They have the linalool and linolyl acetate, which are components of lavender, but then they also have a kind of this camphorous quality to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a peculiar smell. Like, but
It's different.
yeah,
It's different. A lot of lavender in the big market is actually lavandin, because it's easier to grow lavandin. A lot of the pictures you see of French lavender farms with these really beautiful kind of rows of lavender, that's actually lavandin, because lavender doesn't grow like these beautiful, true lavender is a little messier than a lavandin, which grows more uniform. So a lot of time, and some lavandins are sweet, like lavender, like a true lavender. So yeah, country of origin, different species. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And okay, so just to go back, because I know we kind of got into like the whole, like what we call like the nerdy aspect of us.
I know. Sorry about the chemistry, but
It's all good. But
it's
I did
like,
want to
woo.
still tap into the stress and anxiety real quick, because you mentioned that like you like to diffuse a lot of essential oils to help with stress and anxiety. Can you list, like, I know, so putting them in a diffuser, are there any other like practical ways that you like to use essential oils, or that you recommend using
Yeah,
essential oils to help with
yeah.
stress and anxiety?
Yeah, so diffusion, you mentioned roll-ons, doing the roll-ons are really nice. Salves can be helpful, even soap. I mean, in the shower, like, having an aromatic experience while you're showering, it's like you were sharing about grapefruit in the shower. It's like, oh, I feel better, so you get out of the shower and your day is that much better because you had that aromatic experience. You can create these little like tabs that you can put on the shower floor and put drops of essential oil, so while you're showering it's going into the air. But any your body cleanser. Years ago, I worked with a woman whose husband, he was ex-military. He would have, nightmares. So he didn't want to use aromatherapy directly. So we put the essential oils in his conditioner.
Yeah.
And we actually found that because he would shower in the evening before he went to bed, we found that the smell in the conditioner helped ease his, really what he was experiencing was nightmares. So, it can be any method of application where someone is exposed to the aroma that they like, um, can have an effect on the emotional well-being. So, yeah. Massage, obviously. I mean, I'm a big proponent of massage, even if it's self-massage. You said, I don't know how old you have a son, a daughter.
Daughter, she's 10 months.
Yeah. So when my son was a baby, I would use a lot of hydrosols. And the one I would use the most, well, two I used the most with him, lavender and German chamomile. And I would put like a tablespoon or two in his baths. We had, as he got older, we had this little ritual with the hydrosol, which is that water part of the distillation. We'd sing the song Lavender Rain, like before he went to bed, and we'd spritz the hydrosol all around him, and then he'd fall asleep, and we also drank it. Like he would go in the fridge and just like have a sip of that lavender hydrosol. So he grew up with really loving the lavender hydrosol or lavender essential oil. He diffuses in his room to today only essential oils, not the little synthetic thing he puts in his car. It's an ongoing debate in our family around those things. We're like, throw it out. Actually, if I drive his car, I throw it out. It's like, I'm like, I have a car diffuser. Use this car diffuser. Then you can put the oils on that you like.
Get the benefits and get the benefits.
Exactly.
So good. So that actually segues into just talking about how you can like use it into your soaps and use it in like massage oils. That segues into using essential oils for skin health. And
Yeah.
so we know that it helps with that mind connection. How do essential oils help with body, like putting it on your skin or applying it in, as far as like, can your skin absorb essential oils? All of that, how does it help?
Yeah, good question. So essential oils, so they do get absorbed to a limited extent, depends on the oil itself. And it's not like the whole oil goes through the skin. There's usually components of the oil that will go through the skin and get picked up through general blood circulation. But on the skin itself, just topically, it helps with wound healing. It can help relieve inflammation. Do you know if someone has inflamed skin or an inflamed skin condition? It helps wound healing. It helps cellular regeneration, so it's just helping kind of we have the epidermis, so it helps cellular rejuvenation and regeneration. They can help with scar appearance, although sometimes with those things we're looking also at the carrier oil or the vegetable oil it's in. Has a role to play. I'm trying to think of all the other insect bites. They help relieve itchiness. They can reduce, like sunburn, fungal infections. I'm trying to, I said wound healing. I'm sure I'm forgetting. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're pretty much it's like whatever your skin goes through, essential oils can help with that.
Yeah.
And of course, there
Like
are some
oily skin, like if there's acne, we could use essential oils that target like the bacterial component to acne, also improve appearance. And then the skin, what also affects the skin is how we feel, right? Our emotions. If we're feeling really stressed out, our skin might look a certain way versus if we feel good about ourselves. And then when people have skin conditions that affect their thoughts about themselves or their own worthiness, this I feel is where essential oils can be of great benefit too, to kind of be self-compassionate or help to relieve the stress or anxiety or feelings around, kind of transform their lack of confidence to compassion, right? So that part. Yeah.
that was beautiful. I'm so happy that you like
Yeah.
touched that, because of course, just making body care products, it's just not us taking things for face value and kind of understanding in depth how they can internally, externally help us. And that was so deep for you to say about, sometimes skin conditions can cause like a lack of confidence or feeling lack of self-worth for yourself. And then, if you're feeling happy, you're like, well, you know what? It's not that bad.
I'm okay. Exactly. Or just to be okay. This will pass, Yeah. I mean, I had a sister that suffered for years with quite severe acne, tried everything but natural remedies, this, that, even essential oils. And it was, and hers were like young adult, like in her early 20s. So yeah, so we worked with her with the oils, even though they didn't fix the condition. It helped her emotionally with the stress part and the self. So it just will always stay with me because it's my sister and I love her. And now it's past. Like she went, once she was in her mid-20s, her skin cleared up. So yeah.
And then I think definitely consistent use of like essential oils, natural ingredients, that you'll start to see
Exactly.
like, results after a while of continuous use. So it's
Exactly.
interesting too, even, like I said, you mentioning how they help with how they help with different skin conditions, and how they could just help you feel better about yourself. What are some essential oils that you feel that can help with like some different skin conditions? Yeah, what are some essential oils that you—
Yeah. So, I mean, but the one can, if you have really oily skin, things like cypress or rose or um, even frankincense or lavender. I know years ago, and yeah, frankincense helps reduce the uh, potential of blackheads on the skin, so frankincense, lemon can be useful when someone has oily skin, like a lemon cypress in a facial cleanser or facial mask can be helpful. And then dealing with the inflammatory part of like psoriasis or acne. I mean, there's so many different inflammatory skin conditions, but then it could be like, oh, I want it in a gel because it's inflamed. There's heat, and a gel is cooling, and then I'm going to put lavender and German chamomile or Roman chamomile essential oil to further, reduce the inflammation on the skin. Yeah. And
Well,
then, the only area where essential oils are not useful is in states of dryness. Like when someone has dryness, I do see like out in social media, these essential oils for dry skin. It's not really true because essential oils in their nature, they are drying, right? So essential oils do not moisten the tissue. This is where we would need a cream or a gel or a carrier oil is taking care of the dryness. And part of the dryness could be inflammation or itchiness or irritation. But essential oils don't really deal with dry conditions. And that's from everything from a dry throat to dry skin, dry hair. You're looking more at your base, like what is your base, right? And with internally with dryness, we would look at like an herbal medicine, like marshmallow root or violet leaf or um, shishandra, like different herbs that, when drunk as a tea, have a moistening effect on the tissues of the body. So, but dry skin, this is where we use body butters or body balms or the massage oil, because oil, like carrier oils, vegetable oils, they seal the skin, preventing moisture loss, but they can also, like, say we took a shower and then we put an oil, it can lock moisture into the skin, right?
yes.
Yeah.
You say that too, essential oils don't necessarily help with dry skin because they're like heavily concentrated. I know we've been talking about so many of the benefits of essential oils, but there's also like safety concerns with essential oils and how to use them properly. Could you go into depth with like how to use them properly? Because real quick, my husband, even with us using soap, I think like a couple of years ago when we were at the farmer's market, he was extremely hot. And I think we were trying to stay away from bugs, and he applied essential oils like directly to his skin, and his skin was irritated. And that was a lesson learned that they do not apply essential oils, what they call like, to your skin. You dilute them with like carrier oils or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, there are rare occasions where undiluted application is, of benefit, like shingles or, a burn or trauma to the tissue. They can be, but normally they're diluted down, right? They're put in some type of base, whether it's aloe vera gel or sunflower oil or jojoba oil or body butter or shea butter, they're diluted down, and it depends on the age of the person, the skin condition you're working with, the essential oils you're using. So those all kind of help determine what your concentration of essential oil should be. I have a new philosophy I'd like to share with you about safety, because I feel like in the aromatherapy world, there's a lot around the dangers of essential oils, right? Like as if that's the starting point. The starting point kind of in the social media world is there's a danger to the use of essential oils, and that's not true at all, right? So I like to start off with, actually, essential oils are really safe to use. It's a really extreme cases where we see some adverse event. Like, I'm not as kind of yeah, it's more rare for someone to have an adverse event to essential oils, and it usually comes through misuse, like your husband, oh, I'll just put a bunch of oil, undiluted, he said. It happens, thankfully it's short term, it resolves itself. Some people go on to have, sensitization for the rest of their life. But for the most part, I like to come from the perspective that essential oils are perfectly safe, because they are, right? And then we want to dilute them down. And, if you put a little and, you get a burn, well, lesson learned, it's like not, going to kill anybody. So yeah, like, I just feel like we need to kind of move the lens of safety in aromatherapy to, they're generally safe, right? But these are some of the practices that could get you into trouble, like using cinnamon bark undiluted on your skin could cause like serious burning, or using bergamot essential oil and going out to the beach for the day, serious burning. There's like definitely these things. Know the oils you're using. You develop products, so you are aware of any safety concerns that may need to be flagged, like if you use bergamot in a body, whatever, and somebody, or even a roll-on, somebody goes out in the sun, they're like, oh my God, hyperpigmentation, possibly burning. So you could use bergamot FCC, which lacks the bergaptine, right? So then they wouldn't get sunburn. So yeah, but I feel over the years, when I trained as an aromatherapist, you would never have heard anyone say, I'm going to teach you how to use essential oils safely and effectively, because nobody would be saying, like, I'm going to be teaching you about aromatherapy as dangerously as possible. Like, no, nobody says that. It's like, of course, safety is built into our relationship. So anyhow, I hope that made sense.
No, that made sense, because I actually was even going to ask about that. Like, were there any like myths or misconceptions that you wanted to address about essential oils? And essentially, I think that that's great to address. Like, for one, the validity of the essential oil, like you said, just making sure that you're using the proper essential oil, making sure it's safe, and how to use them. I think is super important. And then even like another myth and misconception that comes to my mind is, like you said earlier, you were like just going to like a grocery store and they're saying that something's an essential oil, and it's not necessarily an essential oil. So it's like just understanding like that essential oils, how to identify them essentially. Could you kind of, even before we, head off to the podcast at some point, could you kind of go in depth to how would you know, how do you tell the difference between like a synthetic fragrance and like you're smelling an essential oil, or you're smelling a synthetic, or like what they're calling them natural fragrances now, but it's still
They
like.
are. Yeah. So someone has to want to, they take a class, and it really requires developing your sense of smell. There's no way around that. It's not like we would instantly know this is a synthetic, and well, I mean, maybe some people would. This is a synthetic, this is plant derived. It takes, like in our classes, it's like you learn like to smell and what you're looking for, and almost like you're listening to an essential oil, right? It's like when you're smelling, there's like your brain is listening to it. But if you grew up on synthetics, you need a mentor like yourself, like someone to teach, like, oh, well, just really smell this and then smell the synthetic. It's like we have to train our noses. There's no way to just tell somebody. It has to be experienced, right? This is why I like when people smell aromatic plants. If they even go to the grocery store, buy some basil, you can get dried lavender at the grocery store. Smell the plant material, then smell the oil, and you'll be like, wow, it's like, ooh, it doesn't smell right. And oh, okay, now I smell some of the qualities I smelled in the dried lavender, or I took a sprig of, what do they sell? And like they sell rosemary, so to get a sprig of rosemary, smell the rosemary, then smell a rosemary essential oil, you'll start to, it's training. It's like smell training. You'll start to sense qualities that are in plant aromas that are not in synthetics. Like synthetics, the other thing about synthetics usually like hit you in your nose. It's like, they're super strong. It's like, pow, right there. And then they often will linger actually. Whereas an essential oil, it doesn't hit you in your nose. It's like but can, I guess, cinnamon bark maybe, but, and it develops, right? Like when you're smelling an essential oil, there's layers to it. It's not the same smell that hits you in your nose and it's just stuck there. Do you know? So that's one way of saying, telling somebody. I recently got a box sent to me. This was last year. It's a toy company. Like, I can't remember. It's quite a large one here in the US. And they created this like huge box of all this sensory stuff, like, like scented pencils and paper. And then they had a card diffuser and a aroma stone. And I was really excited. It was like Michael and Doug, or Doug and Michael, or Michelle, or whatever that company's called. And I was like so excited. I was like, this is really cool. Like all using your senses, like your writing, or, the car diffuser. And it said essential oils. And then I opened it and they're all different colors. There's like a green and a red and a yellow. And I was like, oh no, this is not looking good. And of course I smelled it and I was like, these are not natural. I was like, this was a real opportunity it would be impossible to mass produce a product like that, right? With natural essential oils, but they could have at least gone to the, like an extended oil of some kind, but these were synthetic,
Right.
even though it said on it. It's really an unregulated industry, which is why they can say it's an essential oil, even if it comes from a lab and has never seen a plant. So
That kind of deception. But that's why I feel like we had, people like us, we have to do the work of like educating people and letting
it's
people.
nonstop.
Yeah.
It's literally nonstop, right? Yeah. I have an Airbnb on my farm, and for some reason, one of the people that stayed there, like I walked in after they had left, I walked in, I was like, what is that smell? What is that smell? Oh my God, like what have they done to my cabin? And they had used Febreze. Febreze, which, this is an example of a synthetic, and Febreze is designed to stick right in the environment. So that's why it's like lasts for hours and hours and hours. And so that's another like kind of qualifier of the difference between a synthetic and a plant-derived essential oil. And the synthetics linger like for hours. I like had to clean that cabin from top to bottom and wash all the pillows and everything, because it was just like it clings, so that's another. Whereas essential oils volatilize off. It might be like, oh, I'm going to add more to my diffuser because it's not as strong as it was, or yeah.
Yeah, especially like, essential oil roll-ons, room sprays, you got to reapply them with essential oils because they evaporate,
Exactly. They dissipate over time. Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
So for anyone who wants to learn more about essential oils and might want to dive deeper, are there like any books or courses? What are some of the like learning modalities that you recommend for like learning more about essential oils?
Yeah, well, there's a plethora. Like, there's so many books out on aromatherapy. They could go to Amazon, or I don't know if you sell books, but so there's a lot of really great books. I'd look at the reviews on different books, but if they want to obviously get certification, they could look at our school, which is the School for Aromatic Studies. So yeah, it depends on where are they at, right? Like there's a lot of great books out there that give recipes, different ways to use essential oils. There's a lot of recipe books, actually. And if you're buying it, I would look at the reviews. I don't have any specific that come to mind. Like, I haven't looked at a retail book in years, but some of I know actually there's one really great book that still has held its value, and that's a woman named Valerie Ann Warwood. And her book is the Complete Guide to Aromatherapy and Essential Oils. And that was written, 35, 40 years ago. But her recipes are still valid today. Like they really were effective. So I highly recommend Valerie Ann Warwood. If, that's the book that comes to mind. Anything by Kirchner as well. So yeah. Yeah, like medical aromatherapy. I mean, it depends on where is their interest, right? But yeah, Warwood's book.
Okay. Yes, I have that book, and that book is actually very extensive. It covers a lot. It's like
a lot.
It
is. It's thick. It's
a thick
great.
book.
Yeah, it's a classic.
It is a classic. My favorite part is like the beauty care part, and just practical ways of applying it to like your facial care, or to applying it to like any of your body care, taking baths and different things. So the world of essential oils, we literally just surface here. But thank you so much for joining us. How can listeners find out more information about you, and how can they connect with you?
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've just it's like taking a little frosting off of a cake. It's like, no. Well, I'm the owner and creator of the School for Aromatic Studies, and our web address is just aromaticstudies.com. And then, everything related to us would be Aromatic Studies, like our Instagram handles, Aromatic Studies, and Facebook, Aromatic Studies. But yeah, I would say we're most active on Instagram, and then of course our website. We have always come out with really great blogs and recipes for people. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And before we close out, finally, what would be like your overall takeaway that you would want any listener to pretty much take away from listening to this episode, and what would you want them to know about essential oils? Like, what's an overall general thing that you want them to know?
Appreciate the power of your sense of smell in supporting, especially in today's world, your emotional well-being and reducing the physical impact of stress. So any method that you get exposed to plant-derived essential oils, be it a soap or diffusing essential oils, can have profound effects in a very stress-filled world, right? So, yeah. Don't underestimate the sense of smell.
Right. What was coming to my mind is the nose knows.
The nose knows, exactly. The nose knows. Sometimes it needs to be trained, or you just need to listen to it more closely. But you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciated that on the podcast. It was definitely a joy having you. I felt like a kid in a candy store, like my so much right now.
It was really wonderful talking with you. So thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
No problem.